Hello, hello. Yeah, welcome again to Coded Live. If I know many of you have been hanging out with us since early in the morning, so thank you for that. I was on earlier on in the day doing some Xamarin and desktop stuff, and I'm back here to kind of close things off with something that's super important and near and dear to many enterprise developers' hearts. So I am Sam Basu. I am a developer advocate here at Progress Software, and with me I have my very good friend over here, that way on the internet, Mr. Rick. How do you say your last name? Because I'm going to butcher it.
I guess it would be Hellwege in English.
Yeah, there you go. How are you?
I'm great. How are you, Sam?
Not too bad. Hanging in there. It's been a busy day. I was joking that I'm back on the internet when I've been gone for like about half an hour. It's been a fun week, but it's all good. We're celebrating a huge release that we had, and our engineering teams just pour in so much love that it took us like a week to cover everything that was done. So, Rick, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself a little bit? Tell us what you do.
Okay. My name is Rick Hellwege. I am a principal sales engineer here at Progress Software. I've been with the company for about 10 years now. So I span a lot of the products and a lot of the development that sort of happened over time. And I think, today I'm here to talk about the reporting product, which is something that's been near and dear to my heart for, we'll say 8 years of the 10. Wow. I'll let you on a little inside secret, Sam. When I first started, I hated reporting with a fiery passion.
It is not the most like the sexiest part of the stack that you can think of, but it's so important to drive your business.
For a developer, it can be intimidating, but I started here as a support engineer, and I had to support my customers who had questions. So I tilted into it and learned everything I could about reporting. And the more I learned about it, the more I learned to love it.
Yeah. And I'll go out of my way to say, like, I do not envy the job that you have. And I know our fellow partner in crime, Richard Zaslow, is also here in the chat room. Being on technical support as is Lance. Lance is a Zamel mammal. Okay, I get it. Well, chickens are not mammals. I don't know. Are chicken mammals? No, they're not. They're not. Chickens are not mammals, but you folks are on the front lines. Like, you see the real stuff that enterprises are dealing with, and you are kind of deep diving into solutions with our customers. So thank you for what you do. And Rick, I think you're based out of the Boston area, right?
I am, yes.
Okay, yeah. Where exactly?
The Burlington office. I guess I haven't been there in a year, but
the Burlington area. Okay, I did a horrible thing yesterday. It's a really sad and bad story. So I had somebody on from Boston. It was a PM from Microsoft, Maddie Leisure, and I said, "How does it feel to be back in the Super Bowl?" Because I had forgotten that Brady had moved on. And she was like, no, I'm happy that the Patriots are gone, because like there's no dearth of Patriot haters everywhere. But I felt so bad. But I mean, over like 10 years or so, like you just associate Brady with the Patriots. It's just hard to differentiate.
Maintaining those important relationships, Sam. Good job.
Yeah. All right, fun stuff. Last session,
I have my Boston Starbucks mug, so I can represent.
I love the Boston, or not the Boston. I'm just name dropping things all over the place. I do love Boston, but I love the Starbucks lines. Wherever I go, I grab a cup.
Me too.
Those are good ones.
My rule is one overnight in a city before you can buy the mug, though. You can't just be passing through.
Yeah, that's true. That's good. That's a good rule. All right, so last hour of the day, and we're going to go over something that, and this is where I feel a little bad, because when we do the webinars, like we have a lot to cover in an hour, and invariably we end up covering reporting towards the end, and I'm always like rushing through it, which is not fair. So I'm so glad to have you on. Shall we bring up your desktop? You want to talk through some stuff?
Sure. Let me go ahead and do that now. Let's see.
And maybe, folks, if you are maybe just a developer who has not ever dealt with reporting, maybe we'll walk you through a little bit as well as to what this might entail. So there you go. We see it.
Right.
So let's just say I don't know anything, which I am. It's absolutely true. I don't know anything about reporting. But what is reporting, and what's our reporting solution?
Sure, I'm gonna cover reporting sort of at the 20,000 mile level, just to get a baseline for everyone, so we can be on the same foot. And then I prepared some fun projects we can play with.
Yes.
So, Telerik reporting is a way to represent data in a paginated, basically in a paginated way, something that is intended to be ultimately at the end of the day, held and used and flipped through. So the Telerik reporting solution, primarily the primary guarantee that you get with our solution is that no matter which type of report that you are rendering, whether it be something you're viewing on the screen or something you're printing out for a board presentation or exporting to PDF or Excel or any of the other 13 rendering extensions, it is going to look virtually identical, pixel perfect across all of the extensions. So you only have to design it once. And you sort of are guaranteed that you'll have that nice looking report no matter how it's consumed, in which platform, via which API, and which media. So ultimately, it's just a way of representing and displaying data. And it's kind of difficult to nail down because it is so extremely flexible. I mean, I've never seen more flexibility in a reporting product, or really in many products at all, than in Telerik reporting. We take the guardrails off with this product. You have the freedom to build as nice or as poor of a report as you want.
Yeah, I mean, Rick and me are biased, but we are biased for a reason, because we've been doing this for years and years now. And that's what you said is like so important, like having something in your hand or maybe on a mobile device to kind of flip through. Because like, think about just the sheer amount of data that we deal with, right? Without a way to visualize and be able to summarize and quickly go through, you're going to miss like the patterns or any correlations, any trends in your data, really.
Yes, exactly. And reporting is certainly a great way to do that. I mean, that's why reports have been around since basically the dawn of modern, business and enterprise culture. I mean, we've moved away from paper reports now to be eco-friendly, but like I said, with Telerik reporting, you can consume the exact same data in the exact same way in electronic format. While maintaining that same aspect ratio, the same look and feel. Something isn't going to get pushed to a separate line and mess up the next 90 pages because you exported it to PDF instead of printing it.
Yeah. And our good friends in the chat room are poking fun at your Boston accent.
No apologies.
Go?
No apologies. If you make me think about it, it's going to get even thicker.
There we go. It comes out a little bit. All right. So there are multiple aspects of this. There is a reporting engine, and I think if you like scroll down, like this is the page, the product page here, folks. So if you scroll down, like I think it talks about like the different things. Like it's binding to just about any data source. The build part of it is where you're actually designing your report, and I think we have like 3 report designers now. There's a desktop one, standalone. There's Visual Studio, and now there is a web one, which is quickly catching up. And then there's the whole like reporting engine, which is the one that pulls the data together at runtime and delivers it. And then you have the report viewers, correct?
Correct.
So anything I'm missing?
No, I mean, it's really those major components. Just in there, there's so much complexity. So, I mean, you sort of just mentioned report viewers, but that's really the user interface to the report, and it's in some ways the most important component. So to make sure that regardless of what architecture that you're building your application with, that your users can consume your reports in meaningful ways, we provide something like 7, 8, 9 different report viewers built for native WinForms, WPF, HTML5. We have a Blazor viewer that we currently produce, Angular, React. I think we're looking at a Vue one sometime coming up soon. So really, no matter what the front end technology you're using, there is a viewer to represent the report. But almost as important, and well, in some ways more important, is the reporting engine, and that we only have one of. It's a UI agnostic engine built against .NET standards, so it's going to run in any application in any scenario, regardless of the framework you're using. So that is, a single one and done utility, and that's really, the workhorse of Telerik Reporting. It can be embedded in a platform application, or it can be spun up as a web service to request reports sort of asynchronously in an online manner. So, I mean, the word you're going to hear me say a million times is flexibility. There's so much flexibility in just the simplicity of how we've encapsulated these components and extended them to be available in every flavor and platform you could possibly need.
Yeah, no, and the reporting viewer aspect of it, like you said, is important. Like we don't want to hold you back, right? We don't know what type of client apps you're writing, so we will cover everything web under the sun. Like you look at the list here, Angular, React, and for the 3 people who are still using Silverlight, I'm just joking. You can still render on Silverlight. It's an HTML5 viewer, so it works everywhere. And then if you get down to like the bleeding edge things like Blazor and Angular, like we have specific things, so you feel like you're right at home when you're writing these things. And and the .NET stuff, like if you're doing like a Windows-based viewer, like on WPF or WinForms, and this was the big thing that our engineering teams have been working on to make them work on .NET 5. So that was a big change this time around.
Yes, and I think as of Q1, I think we have official support for .NET 5. So I actually I have a little demo I can actually run, to prove that it works on .NET 5.
Sure. And Richard here in the chat room is bringing up a good point here. The web report designer is super interesting to me because you never envision doing something as busy or demanding as a report design on the web. But I mean, we have the tech. The modern web and the browsers allow us to have that kind of tech. So this is our way of exposing everything that you want to a non-technical user who can design their own report in their browser. And essentially, we set up an ASP.NET service and a RESTful backend, and that's going to kind of pipe the reporting engine, have it build the report and deliver it to you. And you give the users that flexibility to kind of do that designing on the browser itself. Yeah, so a lot of good stuff. So where do we start? In R1, what did we do? I know you play around with the reporting a lot. So what kind of fun stuff can you show us?
Sure. Let me get rid of this browser, and I'm going to bring up the standalone report designer, which is sort of my default go-to for working with reports. Let's see. Let's go to this blank one here. Okay, so in R1, we had a lot of interesting things that came out, but the major time was spent on improvements to the reporting engine, which is where we actually spend a lot of time, sort of making that more performant, optimizing it for newer technologies, in this case, .NET 5, ensuring compatibility. So there's not a lot to show off there. You can sort of just wave your hands and say it's much faster. But we did have a few user end features that came out, which I think are really interesting, which I'm going to step through. So one of them is for years, I've been having customers say, I have this pen and paper form that I have to convert to a report, to populate data from a database. How can I do that? And the answer has always been, you take the paper form, you print it out, you put it on your desk in front of you, and you sort of replicate that in the report designer. You look down, you look back, and you get it sort of as close as you can. So to make that a little bit easier, what we came up with is a way to take that form and embed it in the report as a background layer that's only going to be visible in the designer. When you actually render the report, that layer is removed. So you can use that as a baseline to design on top of. So what I did is I went ahead and grabbed an electrical permit form from my hometown, which is something I'm very familiar with recently, which we're going to go ahead and just put into this report here. It's done through the watermark collection editor, and you can select from the drop-down a background overlay, and then from there you would just choose the let's see. So you add that and hit OK. So and
this background overlay thing is new, right?
Yes, the background overlay in the watermark collection is new. Here's the property I was looking for, image. So we have an electrical permit, which we'll pull in and hit OK. So now this puts it into the report, and now you can sort of look at it and do your sizing. You can say, OK, well, I need the report to be about this big, and well, I don't need headers, so we'll get rid of page header and the footer, and we can pull down the body of the report. This is all very, all derived from sort of click and drag interfaces. So now we can see, the application here in the background. Actually, let me make it just a bit more opaque, just so we can have it look a little different than in the front end. Okay, so now we have an idea of what this application looks like that we want to duplicate. We can preview it in the designer. Nope, we get nothing because that gets obscured away. So now what you could do is, if you wanted to come in and change and start duplicating some of these fields, you could pull in items. So let's say we want to build out this this text box here. So you can grab a text box, drag it on the form. One great thing about reporting is you can sort of zoom in as much as you need to. We'll go to 200%. So you can see what's going on there. Take the text box, move it into the area you want, and zoom in a little bit more. There we go. And then start aligning that. Now, built in, we have snap to grid. So you can see I'm not getting quite perfect alignment. So you just turn that feature off down here. Now you can have sort of infinite alignment along that item, drag it to the size you want.
So this is interesting. Like what you did was you brought in a form that's a paper form as an image.
Form.
And then, like, how are you even getting like the grid alignment type things? Like it does a little bit of recognition of what that image is.
The grid alignment is based on sort of the background ruler for the report.
So the ruler is there, yeah. So it's not the image, but okay.
It's not the image it's snapping to, it's the ruler. And that's why it was not letting me go precisely on the lines I wanted. So you can turn that on and off. You can set the dimensions for it, set the size of the grid lines. If I wanted to make infinitely small, or not infinitely small, but very small grid overlay, you could still turn on the snap and get a little bit of alignment that way too. And you can spend as much time as you want in here, getting this perfect. But what it really gives you is a visual cue of what you're trying to replicate, and then you can sort of quickly go back and forth between this and the preview to see what it actually looks like and make sure that it's representing what you're trying to do. So I had one that I was playing with a little bit earlier, right here. I filled out a few of the areas, the city of, the line, and a couple of the boxes. So if you preview this, you can sort of see your progress as you go. And then you can sort of build out this form one piece at a time until you have a full representation of what you're trying to replicate, the sort of the paper form.
Yeah, this is interesting because like when I think about like a background, like an overlay, I think of making like watermarks and like a strong branding for your report, while you are using it for something completely different. And this is very useful and realistic in a way.
Absolutely. This makes replicating any type of document or picture that you need in the report much easier. And then when you're done, you can leave the background there if you want it for reference, or you can just delete that watermark and have your report moving forward. You can also, if you want to data bind any of these items, all these text boxes are bindable by embedding an expression into them. So you can connect this form to a database, and you can start populating it with data coming from any of the data sources. So instead of having to fill these forms out by hand, now you can sort of pre-populate them in a different way.
Yeah. And I mean, speaking of data sources, like if you just go out to the data tab, like Richard was saying, like it's all data is welcome. We really don't care what it is. Like our connectivity is just huge, the number of things you can connect to. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh yes. So the Sql Data Source is sort of the the old standard. You can connect to sort of any relational database out there using SQL expressions and ODBC drivers or native drivers, for Oracle or something that's a little more finicky. But anything you can think of. And actually, we even have legacy support in reporting for old style C# data tables. If you want to sort of hard bind it into a legacy, into a legacy solution, you can just set a data table to data source, and the report will figure it out.
I'm so glad like Alyssa is off the street. Like she's like, what are you guys even talking about? But that's the reality. Like, I mean, enterprises have older stacks and you need to be able to connect.
Absolutely. And that's certainly one thing that makes it a lot easier, but I don't generally advocate that. My go-to for anything that wouldn't, any edge case scenario that would not be covered, in this toolbar, which is fewer and fewer nowadays, is the object data source. And what this really does is it lets you connect it to a business object, which is infinitely flexible. You basically point it to a in-scope object, provided the fully qualified name of that object, and basically it could just be something like get data. And as long as that object is returning a collection of some sort, whether it be a generic list or an iCollection interface, anything, the reporting is going to figure it out and bind to that data in a strongly typed way. Whereas with the data table, the old school way, it's not quite as strongly typed. You get the data, but you're not getting a lot of the metadata and the column names, things like that come with it. But you can specify and build up any interface you want. So if you have an unusual situation with your data, it doesn't really matter what it is. If you can build any type of object that's accessible to this at runtime and provides a method to return data in any sort of standard collection, reporting will find a way to work with it. So this is one of the most flexible things here, is the object data source. But everything else, the Sql data source, cube data sources, with the CSV data source, which is really interesting, is if you wanted to have a report run in a completely offline way, you can actually embed a CSV file directly in the report. It doesn't have to be an external file, although it can be an external file. So
you can pull out anything you want, but yeah.
Anything. But I think the most useful one that we probably see people using now is the web data source. So this one, you just point it to a certain, not necessarily JSON. It can be XML. You just point it to a service. You set up your authentication, whether it's a get or a post. Populate body information. You can use inline JSON if you want, or inline string data, and you just go through and I don't have a URL on this one, but you just go through and you build out the parameters and connect to any arbitrary data source that's sort of out there. And that's what I did with one of the little projects we're going to look at a little later.
Okay.
So I have a fun project to look at there. Okay, so let's talk about a couple more of the new features in the R1 release before we jump into my projects. So something else we added was the ability to embed an SVG image directly in a report, and something that it was quite tricky to accomplish. But that SVG image now it can be embedded and rendered in the report. But when you export to PDF, we don't have to rasterize the image anymore. So you get to embed that SVG directly in your PDF. So you sort of have the flexibility that comes with using any kind of vector format, in that you can resize that image on the fly and not lose resolution, which is, I can't count the number of frustrating times when I've had to build a report and I had an image, but it was the wrong size. And, I have to go back to marketing, say, do you have the original that I can resize down to, a size that's going to work? So I can't blow this image up 400%. It's going to look like poo-poo.
So maintain like full fidelity with vector images.
So let's show that off, just so people know I'm not lying. Let's go to the progress, the Telerik homepage.
Let me pull up something while you're doing it, just
sure.
Release notes for this one.
So I'm going to inspect this page. I know that this is a vector image here, the progress logo. So we'll just collapse that whole SVG into a single line. Right click, go to copy element. Okay, I now have that SVG image in my clipboard. We can get rid of this page. We're going to go here and we're going to add a picture box. So you can right click on the picture box, go to expression, get rid of that equal sign because we're not resolving a field. And we're just going to do a Control V, and now we just dump that entire SVG data into this expression for the picture box. We hit OK. You can see that it renders the SVG. Now we have a lot of features with the picture box. You'll see that by default, it's just putting the native size in there. But let's come down to the properties, and we're going to set the sizing to scale proportional. I don't want to skew my image, but we'll scale it proportionally. Now we can take this, we can align it to a corner, and we can grab the bottom, we can sort of drag it out any size we want, and we're maintaining, that resolution regardless of the size. I think make it just a little bit bigger before it hits the edges. Okay. So we could zoom in here and you can see that we still have nice crisp lines. But all this is showing is that it's still an SVG in the designer. So I mean, that's great. But let's show that how it actually works. We go to preview, and from the preview, within the designer, you can preview what these reports are looking at, all of the rendering extensions by going to the export tab. So let's export it to a PDF and save it as SVG. Open that folder, and we'll open this PDF. And let's see how close we can get.
Yep, full fidelity. There you go. Very nice.
I think you can zoom in, up to 3,200 times, and you still maintain sort of those razor sharp points, because it's an SVG. So no tricks, no fakery. So this is embedded directly in the PDF. And also from a size standpoint, this is much more size efficient than embedding a huge raster image. So you get to shrink the size of your PDFs as a nice little side benefit to embedding SVG images instead of bitmaps.
Yeah, true. Because I mean, you don't know how people are going to see it, and someone might have a 50-inch widescreen that they're looking at, or like when you're delivering to a mobile device, you do want to care about size of that PDF. So yeah,
absolutely. So that's another great feature that we added in the last release. And I think the last one I can sort of show off visually like this is going to be a different component. So to sort of show why we needed this, let's say you were designing a report, for whatever reason you needed a line to span the top to the bottom. You were building, some type of tree list or some type of
maybe table of contents.
Table of contents. Yeah. Those are the words I'm looking for. Thank you, Sam. So we've always had an image shape component, which you could define as a vertical line. But the problem with this component, for architectural reasons, which I won't bore people with, is you can't extend it beyond a section. So you see, I can't drag this into the header. It stops sort of at that section. And that's just because of the way the rendering engine worked when this component was designed, and maintaining, backwards compatibility, not breaking everything. So if you wanted to span different sections, what you do is you would take this, you would copy it to your clipboard, you go to a different section, you would paste it. Now you have two elements, and you can take the second one, you can bring it over, and you can try and align it with the first one. Luckily, we do, make it easy to align elements.
Yeah,
so it snaps.
It's not ideal. Like you're doing the same thing twice over.
Yeah, it's not that hard, but I mean, it's also, like you said, not ideal. So now let's imagine I have a bunch of these things, and now I want to make a small change to my report. Okay, I want to move this line over 1 millimeter. I'm going to grab it, move it over. Oh, okay. Well, now it's out of sync with all the other lines I have in my report. So now you have to duplicate your work twice, 3 times, 4 times, 5 times, depending on your sections. If you have a dozen lines, now we're talking at 48, iterations of, clicking and dragging. Not hard, but a waste of time. So let's get rid of these. What we added was the cross-section item, which right now this supports sort of that vertical line and a rectangle if you wanted to do a box. But we'll go back to the line, because that's what we were playing with. And we'll switch that back. And it looks similar to the last one, but the advantage is that with this, if I can grab the line, move it over, you can span the top section with it. You can span the bottom section. If you preview the report, you can see that it spans all 3 sections. And now, if I want to move this line, or I want to move this line somewhere, you just grab the one object and you can move it around. Yeah. So much more time efficient. And that's also something that's very important too. I mean, time is money. So it's important to be able to operate with these tools, quickly and efficiently.
Yeah. And like, what if like you have your content section, which is like it's growing, because like you're showing a lot of things. Like, is it going to grow dynamically with it?
The line?
Yeah, the cross section header.
Well, so if you have,
right?
Well, if you have it, depends on how you have it set up. So if it's set up as something that has a finite size, like this, it's going to just be a static size. If you can take that size and you can bind it to, to a binding variable if you wanted to control that dynamically. Something else you could do is we have a lot of anchoring and docking features built in. So if you were to take this component and anchor it to another component that is resizing itself dynamically, it's going to stay aligned with that. But for the table of contents, we also have some dedicated lines built into that component, because that is actually a subcomponent itself, is a table of contents. So you can put one of those into your report, and it'll do a lot of these lines for you in sort of that data bound way. But if you wanted to build anything else into the report, any kind of visual elements or highlighting features that required a line that spanned multiple sections, or multiple lines that span multiple sections, this is definitely the way to go now.
And if you Rick, did like the rectangle for this one, like, can you control like the borders on all four?
I believe you can. So let's take a look. We will take the line and we will make it a rectangle. And okay, so the entire item is now the rectangle. And for that, let's select it. And I believe there's going to be properties for that somewhere. I haven't played with all the properties yet in this component because it's relatively new, but I would be shocked to find that
something in styles probably, but yeah,
probably. Yeah.
So when you get a rectangle, you can put whatever else you want in it. Yeah,
maybe border width. Let's see.
Yeah. And you got border style. So
well, let's try the context menu, because usually that's the easiest way to adjust things. So we'll select this and see if we can get a. I got the detail section there. Let's see, layout, edges, default. Let's see if we can change the width to 3.
Yeah, for sure.
Somewhat. So I'm sure that's yeah, it's in there somewhere. I'm just not finding it at the moment.
No. Yeah, I get it. Yeah, so I actually love this. Like I know we have the Visual Studio designers and the web stuff, but the standalone report designer is just so nice. It is so smooth and elegant, and it keeps you focused on just the report design. But again, you and me are not the ones to decide. Like, people have needs to go to the web. So what else?
It has no reliance on anything other than your personal machine. I mean, it's a 64-bit WPF application, so it runs natively. It's actually delivered as a single executable, so you don't have to install anything. You can just provide it to a customer as a single file, if you want. And we also license it, in a very nice way. It's license royalty free, so anyone can provide this to any of their end users, however they want. But we're not charging a license or requiring a license file or anything like that. So it is a very valid, way to provide reporting, editing, and creation features for end users. But sometimes you want that nice workflow of having a browser-based, sort of a browser-based report designers, just for that simplicity, especially if you have a high volume of users and you don't want to have to worry about providing executable and doing tech support for if they can't figure out how to download it, and everything that sort of goes into that. So you have the choice of which one you want to do.
And maybe not everyone is on Windows, right? So when we go to the web, we just become agnostic to everything else that's under.
Yes, that's a great point, Sam. Yeah, not everyone. Sometimes I forget that not everyone is on a Windows machine. People still insist on using Mac for some reason. So
hey, oh, it's funny. Like I was on another call, and my microphone sits kind of right next to it, and somebody just, "Oh, you're on a MacBook Pro." I was like, "How did you know?" Like, I heard your fan. It's like, yeah. So this concept that Macs don't get viruses, Macs don't crash, like, yeah, you're not using it enough. You'll see that edges very quickly.
Well, I'm not going to get into a Mac versus PC debate. just like I won't get into a JavaScript versus C# debate, because I'm going to lose too many friends. But we'll. So let's see. Do you want to take a look at some of the implementations of Visual Studio, or you want to jump right to the web designer? What do you think, Sam?
Either way, and I know like the web report designer is super hot, and we have been working nonstop to kind of get it to be have feature parity. So you want to go to the web?
Sure. Let me show another quick report that I made real fast. So I spent a little time today, and I built a.
Wait, is this Chuck Norris?
This is a Chuck Norris joke generator. So this is built using a number of our components in reporting. We have just a couple boxes. It's an HTML box, which in addition to text will render a subset of HTML tags. We have just have regular text box here. I've configured some of the fields, with some styles. This is the picture box with the embedded image, and down here I have the SVG image we just played with a minute ago. And let's take a quick look at the web data source, web service data source that I was looking at before. But I didn't have a URI to provide, so I can really show it fully. But so in this one, I'm pointing to an open, API that has no authentication, just to make this easy. This is the API source, jokes, and random is the controller. And what this provides, you can say I have an @count here. So this is a inline parameter. So this API is expecting a /3 if you want 3 jokes to come back, or a /5 if you want 5 jokes to come back. And this is actually a very nice API to demo because it shows off a couple different ways of doing parameters. So if we hit next to go to the next page, you can see I have my inline parameter that I just showed you @query. Inline is specified, and it's bound to one of our report parameters called values. This makes it a user accessible parameter, so the user can choose how many jokes they want to get in their report. And then I have a design time parameter for 2 for when I'm doing my testing. I just get 2 jokes back, which is better than 1 and not as good as 3. But I also have a different parameter. So this is a query parameter. So that's the question mark parameter name equals value. This API supports this as well for additional parameters other than the inline parameter. So it's great. They get to show off 2 different parameter types in one demo.
Why have I not used this API? This is fun.
I don't know. We're gonna have a little talk later about that. So what I did is I used the exclude parameter in the query, and I'm excluding all explicit jokes. This is a family channel, and this is hard coded, so there's no user option to allow them. So you can hit next. You can preview. I remember my design time value is 2, so I'm getting 2 records back, and you can see what the data would look like.
Nice.
So this is what you basically get back for the data, and hit finish, and that would just give you the data source here. Sure. Integrating into the report is really quite as simple as going to the data source and selecting it, and now it becomes built into the report. You can see the data over here. If I wanted to add the joke, one way is click the joke, hold up a mouse button, drag it, and get a pre-populated text box. So that's a sort of a quick way to build these things out. But let's just jump and run it real quick.
Yeah. And while you're doing this, looks like you've started like a little war here. GZ Baku, yeah, don't hurt our feelings. Choose your poison. Just do whatever you want.
C#. Oh, okay.
It's all good. There is no winner. Okay, choose what you want to write.
I see. Well, no, I'm not gonna instigate. It's so tempting, Sam. It's so tempting, but I'm not gonna talk about type safety or anything like that.
I like these types. He knows everything about vulnerability.
So here's the user parameter. So you can come in, you can select, let's say we want 5 jokes, or you get 5 jokes. Let's say you wanted to, provide every Monday, 25 Chuck Norris jokes to your team, so to get them through the week. You can generate a report instead of 25 jokes. You can see it gives you the next pages here. You can look at the print preview, see what this will look like, when you print it out. Export to PDF, do whatever you want. This is very quick.
This is an important report delivered to the CEOs every Monday morning.
It is. You can definitely schedule this one to run, deliver it to the emails, at 8:30. Very important.
And then since you mentioned, like, this is exactly the problem, right? So you have these reporting solutions that will let you design and get those reports generated, but how do you deliver them? And that's where Report Server comes in, which I don't know if you want to get into that now or later on, but that's just a turnkey managed solution. So you know how to host and deliver and then do all of that stuff with reports.
Keep an eye on the clock. I'm saving at least a few minutes for Report Server at the end. Okay, so I'm gonna rush through a couple of things. So we've shown this. So what I ended up doing was, I'm gonna go back to the designer. I can minimize the standalone report designer now. And I'm gonna jump into Visual Studio. I have a number of different solutions here which integrate reports and different core. So I have some .NET Core 3.1 solutions for WPF, WinForms, Blazor, HTML. I have the same solutions available for .NET 5, so you can sort of see that it's available across different frameworks. There's even some in here for .NET Framework, which we won't get into. But just for simplicity, let me launch the Core 3.1 HTML5 integration demo. So we will grab that from here.
And while you're doing that, and I think this is true for some of the demo apps that we have as well, like when you download it, I think it does like multi-targeting with the NuGet packages. So you see the runtimes, you can swap them out for Core 3.1 or .NET 5.
Yes, that is correct. Oh, geez. What did I break? This was working 10 minutes ago.
Whatever happens on the internet is the only thing that could have happened.
Yeah. Oh boy. Let me rebuild.
And while you're doing that, let me pull up reporting and point out where the report designer really helps. So if I head out to reporting solutions, and if I go to the demos here, and Richard is saying it's a course problem, which is like so much of a reality. Like courses when you cross those application boundaries. That URL looks awkward, but you get the point. This is the URL that has all of the demos, and the very first one, like the dashboard, like that's a report designer, which lets you actually play around and design a report on the web. Yeah.
Okay, I'm just waiting for Visual Studio to become responsive again. Rebuild all succeeded. I'm just waiting for some
Visual Studio has had a long week as well. It's Friday.
Yes. Yeah, I must have. I don't know if I changed something right before I went live as I was playing this. Let me. Oh, well, there we go. Let me quit that.
You're giving me too much to do. I need a break.
Okay. We're gonna close it and open it again because that usually fixes everything.
It's like such a cliched thing. Just close and reopen Visual Studio.
Well, you got to go with what works, right? Let me see if I can just launch it directly from here.
If you talk to a developer, he or she is more disturbed by the fact that they don't know why something is working as compared to something is working or it's broken.
Well, wasn't that the classic joke, Sam? My code works and I don't know why. My code
exactly.
Works and I don't know why.
it is bothersome. Like, how is it working?
Okay, so this is the web report viewer, and I think that's working end to end now. Okay, I don't know why Visual Studio decided to hate me for a couple minutes, but it's up and running now. I literally made no changes. So yeah, this is the built-in web report designer. You can see it's going to look very similar to what we looked at before. It has the components on the left. You have the explorer of everything that's in the report. You have the property section here on the right. So really everything you can do in the standalone designer, you can do here in the web designer.
Yeah, so you essentially like select a component on the report, and then the properties window lights up and lets you change everything. And just look at the components here. Like, Rick, if you want to click on the components, just take a look at just a long list of things. These are all the things you can just drag and drop and put on your reports. And being able to access a data source that's probably sitting somewhere way behind in your firewall on a SQL server just through the web. I think that's fascinating that you can expose that kind of thing. And all of this is running over on top of an ASP.NET Restful service.
Correct. So we actually have two Restful services that provide the core functionality for Telerik reporting on the web. One is the report rendering engine service, which delivers the actual reports. And we also have a separate service, which are available as simple NuGet packages, which will provide this web designer sort of as a service. So it's no very complex pages to set up or anything to configure that's really hard. All you're really doing is, do I have, let's just, all you're really doing is pointing some.
Ricky, your font size is too small.
Oh, let's
bump it up a little bit.
Let's see.
There you go.
Yeah, all you're really doing is pointing a component, no, I hate JavaScript component, okay, to the service URL, and this is delivering sort of everything to the browser for you. So there's really not a lot to configure. A couple of parameters if you want. Otherwise, you can just default everything. Really, this is a copy and paste page to drop into to a
and
application.
this is clearly documented. So all it does is just uses that API, and that API is hiding the report engine behind it, and you're pointing it like you see that with the product catalog.trdp file. That's just the report definition file. So you're asking the report engine to go look up that file, fetch the data, build the report, and just ship it.
Absolutely. So, like I said, everything that's supported in the Sql Designer is supported here. So let's take my my Chuck Norris report. It's very important that I want to expose to all of the report designers too. I have that in a report collection, which is the same collection that this application is drawing from. So I think just the jokes TRDP here. You can open that, and here's the exact same report in the web. You can preview it from here too. It's the same data source. Really nothing has changed. So you have the parameter section over here on the side. So let's preview 5 jokes. And so same report, different viewer. I mean, slightly different different workflow when you design it, because this one's in a browser and the other one's in a desktop. So some consequences to that. But by and large, a very nice visual report designer as well. So I think, okay, I want to jump to report server while we have some time. So
yeah, and I do want to focus like how much time the engineering teams spend on performance tuning every part of this web report designer, because it's not easy doing what you're doing here, just envisioning everything just working on the web seamlessly. As you would expect on a desktop designer. This takes a lot of work. And again, just modern browsers, modern runtimes, and modern kind of containers let us do this kind of magic. But yeah, it's a lot of fun.
It is. I'm amazed at what they were able to do in a relatively small amount of time. I mean, with the Sql Designer, we got to borrow an awful lot from WPF, in those libraries for the design surface and the drag and drop interfaces, and a lot of that came from those core libraries. On the web, we had to pretty much reinvent everything from the ground up, which is why we've been working hard to achieve sort of feature parity between the two. But the biggest challenge was making sure that the exact same report can be rendered in either designer, not have features that are only available in the standalone designer and that you just can't touch in the web designer. So we were able to achieve that with a lot of hard work, and just it's amazing what the team was able to do.
Yeah, we have amazing engineers. And all right, so we have our friend and colleague Richard Zaslow in the chat room, and he's causing a little bit of internet heartburn here. We do not talk trash about anybody else, but again, just a hint, if you are coming from Crystal, yeah, we can help you out.
I'm not going to say anything bad about SAP because our office is pretty close to ours, so I don't want to get anyone there mad at me. But
it's all like there's plenty of love for everybody, and we use SAP products.
Yeah. But I mean, just leave it to say, if you want to build anything in .NET Core, you know where to go. Okay, so as I've shown, even though Telerik Reporting is a very easy SDK to work with, we have great documentation, you still have to build it. It's a library. Build your own. You integrate it into an existing application, you build a new one, but there's a developer involved. There's maintenance involved. I mean, it's any code project. Today's Friday at 3:49. Let's say that, Sam, you give me until the end of day 5 o'clock to get a fully featured reporting solution up and running and ready for production, or I'm fired. If I'm using Telerik Reporting SDK, I'm packing up my desk. But with Telerik Reports Server, I can easily achieve that goal with sort of time to spare. So what we've done here is we've taken the exact same reporting SDK components that we use, we dogfooded them, and we built a fully full-scale enterprise application around those components, sort of soup to nuts reporting lifecycle infrastructure. So of course, the first thing you have is the login screen, which again, this is something else you have to build from scratch if you're using an SDK. So I can log in as the administrator, and I'll try to say my password out loud, as I have a tendency to do as I type. Let's see. That was the right one. No, that wasn't the right one. Okay, so this is a dashboard, of all the reports that are in this system, and what this really allows you to do is have a sort of a full workflow for setting up reports. So a user is able to log into this portal, like we see here, and they can create new reports if they have permissions. This has the
Rick, I got to ask you here, like real quick, like before you go into this, like you're running this on localhost But you're
I am.
saying this is a managed solution. So tell me, what about hosting? Like, what type of app is this?
It's a .NET framework application. It's running in IIS on my local machine right now. So this can be published to sort of any server. It can be published. It can be run in the cloud. A couple of the services require sort of a Windows OS for the sort of the scheduling and data alerts.
Yep, those are Windows services. Yep.
Yes, things that have to sort of run a daemon sort of resident in memory to check the time and see what has to happen and when. Those are going to require sort of a Windows OS. If you have no plans to use those features, your deployment is a lot more flexible. Go to AWS, whatever you want. But it's very flexible utility built right now, built for .NET framework. I think we are working on .NET Core very soon.
So you essentially kind of start with a project which already kind of maybe integrates with your AD logins, and then you have this dashboard, and then you start customizing things.
Yeah, so I mean, really, you install it and you point it to a SQL server that you want to use for maintaining its data in its report repository, and you log in. As soon as you hit the URL the first time, it asks you to create an admin account, and you create that. You hit login, and you're presented with basically the same dashboard we're seeing now, a fully available solution with some sample reports and everything end to end. So it includes a lot of useful features like user management. Let's go to users real quick. You can see that you have a number of different users that you can have set up with their own login and password. But for each user, you can specify, manage permissions. So you can have role-based management for different users based on any criteria you want. You can restrict users to only be able to access certain reports, certain categories of reports, read only, read write only. They can modify maybe one category and only read from a different category. I mean, there's a lot of flexibility and customization that's available in here. So this is a lot easier than building a sort of a custom, role-based identity management system, which I've done before and really don't want to do again.
The faint-hearted ASP.NET. Yeah. So you're getting all of these like features for free because you're starting from a good point of having this dashboard and the integrated identity things built in. But what else? Like I see like scheduling and user management and webhooks. But actually, before we go on, we were making fun of Crystal and other things. But I mean, it turns out that is the reality for a lot of people. So Heather, in the chat room, looks like is in the process of migrating away. So you know how to get hold of us. So yes, absolutely, we can do that. Get hold of Richard or get hold of Rick here, and they will help you out or point you to folks who can. And that right under Rick's name is his Twitter handle. So let's start there.
Yeah, absolutely. Any questions that you have, just send me a message, a tweet or a DM, and I'll definitely help you out. Yeah, I mean, I know we don't have a lot of time left, but one thing I just want to talk about real quick was the scheduling, because this is something I've been asked, for basically 10 years. How do I add scheduling to reporting? I want this report to run every, Monday at 8 a.m. and be in the CEO's inbox. How do I do that? And with the SDK, the SDK is only concerned with reporting. Design the report, render the report, show you the report. Anything outside of that, any kind of permissions, login, scheduling, data alerts, that's on you as the developer to build. I mean, it's not a insurmountable challenge, but it is something you have to build.
Build everything from scratch, and that Chuck Norris report needs to be running at 8 a.m. on Monday morning. So how do you do it? Do you do it all by hand, or do you start here, which looks like you like a new task is an enticing button that already has things wired up for you.
New task, and very familiar sort of Outlook style, cadence. You can daily, weekly, monthly, yearly. Set your recurrence. Specify the name of the name of the schedule and a start time that you want for it. Go in and designate which report you want to send out, what format you want it to be sent in. I'm sorry.
I mean, what I was missing was, again, I mean, we're dogfooding our stuff, but I mean, little things kind of escape you. Like I didn't know, like you could choose the format just from the drop down. That's nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then the mail template is like how you want delivered.
Yes, and this is something you can deliver. You sort of set up, the subject, the body, and it has the, the usual string replacement that you would expect. And we have a list of the variables in here that you can use, so you don't have to guess what they might be. Another cool thing is we have both internal and external templates. So if you want to send this to people in your organization, you can do an internal template. And if you want to send it to people outside the organization and maybe tweak some of the language a little bit, maybe use different fonts or include some extra links back to the home page or a sale page or something, you can define an external mail template as well. So then once you go through and you set up all of these options, and let's see if I didn't miss anything, hit save. Okay.
Yeah. Don't you love getting emails where it says hello first name and your parameters?
Love it, especially from LinkedIn. Yes, then you just come in and you add your subscribers. So it's really simple. You just click the add subscribers, and the first thing you have is an option of all the users that you've already set up in Report Server. So you can just sort of pick from your users, alpha user, beta user, which I was using for some testing a while back. But if you have external, subscribers, you can just put their contact information here as well. I think comma or semicolon separated, so you can populate as many external subscribers, sort of as you want, and hit save. And when this report runs on whatever, either you trigger it manually or it runs on the cadence that you've selected, it's going to render the report, generate the report in the rendering format that you've chosen, populate an email, and then send that email to everyone on your internal and external subscriber list using whatever SMTP server that you specified in your settings. So, I mean, compared to building a scheduling engine from the ground up, even using some very nice open source scheduling software, which I have used before, there's no comparison. I mean, this is something it's going to work, almost 100% of the time, and you don't have to maintain it.
Yeah, no, this is not easy to roll on your own. And going back to something Richard was commenting upon, like if you go back to your user management, I thought we could do this, but like when you could you group users?
So you have the concept of user roles. So
there you go. Yeah, that's all.
So you can create a user role, and then system administrator has 2 users in it, and report creator, reader, writer. These are what come with the package by default. But you can create new roles, and then within that role you can define just specific permissions for that role. So you can say
you move users into that role. Yeah.
So you can give read permission, and then you can do a very narrow scope. So read a single report, specific report, and then you can select what report that is. Let's say the samples dashboard report, done. So any user you grant this permission can do exactly one thing. They can read this one report. So if you want to deliver a single report to a large group of people, this is an easy way to do it. And these user roles, they work similar to how user permissions and roles would in Windows. You can have multiple roles on an account, and sort of I think the most narrow defined scope is one that takes precedence. So if you have one role that says allow, one role that says restrict, the restrict role is going to have priority over the allow role. But I mean, it sort of becomes a Venn diagram of roles, or sort of role management. But you can design this sort of as simply or as complexly as you want to.
Yeah, and if you want to go into the reports of the categories up top, 1 second,
Sure.
Rick. Yeah, so I mean, this like if you did not want to expose your report designer or just roll it by hand, like this one, if you allowed a user into this dashboard, like they can do all of that here, right?
Yeah, so if they want to, so they can do the viewing here just by clicking on the names and open a tab with the viewer and everything in it. They can see the report, that way. Do everything they would if you would build your own solution. But if your user has write permissions, you can see that in the dashboard up here, they have options to design the report. So they actually have both designers available to them. They have the standard standalone designer here. So if you're using Internet Explorer and you have click once enabled, it's literally a one click. That's not enabled in other browsers. It becomes a 2-click solution where they now will click this link here.
Just don't tell Alyssa that we do this from IE. Like she's going to be, who are you people? Yes, you get some benefits with click once development or deployments. Yeah.
So a second click we'll download the same standalone designer that I was using before, that the user can then use to edit the report in that designer. Or we actually have a second option here. Now, this is not turned on by default, but if you go into the settings, you can turn on the web designer, which we still market as experimental for the reports server, which is it's a production application, and the web designer is not at feature parity yet. So officially it's experimental, but
Sure.
they can come here, they can click on that option, and just can open a new tab and service that same report in the web designer. Yeah, nothing to download, nothing to configure. The permissions pass through, the login passes through. So don't have to log in. If you had used it in the standalone designer, you have to log in and authenticate against the report server again a second time, because that application has to make a connection back to the report server to pull the report down, which requires you authenticate and identify yourself. So this is a nicer workflow, and I predict that this will probably be the main way people will be designing reports sort of in the report server sort of going forward.
Yeah, I mean, as if you don't already have a lot to do. Like, this just takes out your headaches on. It's one thing to be able to design reports, but it's a whole other thing to be able to manage reports. Because I mean, this will also host things, and you can keep on delivering things that have already been built. So this is a very, very nice turnkey solution. And yeah.
Something else that's great. This actually includes built-in version control. So let's say, Sam, I grant you access to my report server, and you come in and you edit the invoice report here, and you make a horrible mess of it. You come in, you delete all these fields because you don't think they're necessary, and you save the report and preview it. So this report now is in dire straits. So if you go back to the dashboard now, it doesn't overwrite. Well, it does overwrite the original report, but what it also does is it maintains a version history of that report, so you can roll back to a previous version. I think I didn't publish the report, which is why it's not showing up here. I saved it, I didn't publish it. But you can see in this dashboard a number of different versions that I've gone through. Any one of these versions, you can preview it, find the version the last correct version that you had, and then click this icon to roll back to that version. So it has sort of this version information sort of baked right into the report server. And this is all maintained in the same configuration and settings database, so there's no separate tables to set up or separate versioning control. It just sort of comes, baked in.
Awesome. Yeah. So when your CEO messes up that Chuck Norris report, you can silently just revert it back. Yeah. All right, that's a lot to cover in an hour. That's awesome.
It was. I wanted to leave time for Q&A, but I didn't quite make it.
No, that's all right. We're on the internet. We can take a few more minutes here. Anything else you want to mention, Rick?
Let's see. I mean, I've gone through a lot of the features. I hit a lot of the high points. Maybe the only other one I want to mention is data alerts, if we have another minute or two. This is pretty much the same as scheduling, but instead of running on a cadence, it runs on a data trigger. So what this is doing is on a time interval that you define, it is checking key value parameters in a report. And if a value parameter enters a certain threshold that you define, above or below a target or within a range, or really anything you can supply a Boolean, you can relate to a Boolean predicate, it will trigger the report. So let's say you have a stockholders report, and what you want to do is deliver a report to your to your holders when the stock reaches a certain target. You can trigger that. And when the stock exceeds a certain target, you can prepare a report and deliver it to everyone who has a stake, so they can decide if they want to buy, hold, or sell.
What is the explicit filter of not doing GameStop right now? Which I don't even understand what's going on.
Well, if you have another hour, we can dig into it, but I'm going to leave that one alone.
And let's see. Crisis concepts, if I'm reading your name right. But yeah, we covered a lot of Kendo UI. I think that was earlier in the afternoon. And so we have done a webinar on Thursday, and we had kind of a hands-on session today. Everything is recorded. We'll push it out to YouTube so you can watch it. So thank you. Thank you for your interest. All right, so Rick, if nothing else, I will pull down your desktop. But I think the message is take a look at Telerik Reporting. Like if you come from a developer background and if you realize the challenges of reporting, like there is a reason why we are so fond of this. This is just so much out of the box when it comes to report designs and delivery, and you see the management aspect of it with Report Server. So yeah, this is a lot.
Yep.
So Rick, thank you so much. I know you're busy dealing with everything that's on your plate and talking to all of our customers and keeping everyone happy, but you know this stuff inside and out, and this is amazing to see.
It's great to show. Thanks for having me, Sam.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's bring on our hostess throughout the day, which for her, let me check, it's just 11 p.m. That's just like middle evening for you. You got a few hours before you go to bed. You're all good. How are you doing, Ivana?
Just a couple. I'm good. Thank you. It's been such a full day, and I don't know. I've learned so many things for the products that I represent, which is very kind of, I should know more maybe, but every release is just so, there's just so many cool things to learn about. But yeah, thanks so much everyone for spending the time. It's been such a long day, but yeah, I hope it has been some awesome content.
And
I hope everyone feels that way.
Yeah, and that's a great point, because like I see folks in the chat room like Sodabound and a few others, like you have been through so many different technology stacks, and this is kind of what we like doing, like when we go to a conference or something, which I mean hopefully someday again, like you want to walk into a room on for a tech that you know nothing about, because it opens your mind, like, and all of these things are part of Telerik DevCraft, so you can start enabling these things even if you're not using them today.
Absolutely. And I think it's so cool to see people sitting through so many technologies. I don't know, because it's always, we sometimes think of people, as the main technology that they've adopted, but as we dive deeper into the community, we see that so many people know so many things about so many different technologies, and it's awesome. It's awesome to see.
Unless you're like me or Rick, like get off our lawn, like we are happy with our .NET.
I mean, you say that, but I've seen you on stream and I've seen you do things with not necessarily .NET. But I don't know.
It's all welcome. It's all welcome. Yes.
Say it's not true, Sam. Say it's not true.
I know just enough to be dangerous, but yeah. Whatever floats your boat. Yeah. All right, Ivana.
Before we go,
okay.
We need to draw some people. Just one more winner. And you have to choose. But before that, I have a slide that I've prepared. I've prepared a slide, and I want to share my slide.
And Rick, I chose a decimal point, and Eva was not happy. So, like when she says choose between 10 to 20, we cannot choose decimals.
Yes, please whole numbers only. Just before we choose the winner, I want to do a quick shout out to our social channels, not only because I kind of look after them, it's a whole team behind it. You can reach out to us there, add us, use the hashtags, message us, comment, just anything you think of around our products, any questions, any feedback, just find us on there. Follow us here on Code It Live. We have shows daily every week. Sam has 2, for example, and our other hosts as well have plenty of content every week. And we have a small little surprise on our YouTube channels coming later this month. You saw Lance, I think, earlier in the chat. Him and the team will be doing the Support Corner show. So if you want your question to end up on our YouTube channel, the Support Corner show. By the way, I'm so excited for this. I think it's going to be so awesome. But yeah, if you want your question to end up on the Support Corner show, use the hashtags Telerik and Kendo UI. And now I go on to the winner. But just remember that. I'll keep it there. Now you have to choose a number between, let me open my sheet, 5 and 27.
All right, Rick, you do the honors. Drum rolls.
Oh, do I need a random number generator or something?
5 to you said 27? Your call.
Okay, between what my range is?
5 to you said 27?
Yes, 5 to 27.
Okay, how about let's go with my age when I wrote my first computer program. That would be 8.
8. Oh, wow. Awesome.
Okay.
Well, congratulations, Jordan King. Again, I think
congratulations. Golf claps for you.
Chris Concepts. I think it's Chris Concepts. Congratulations. Thank you for joining us.
Nice.
Yes, we'll reach out.
Thank you.
We'll reach out over email, and thank you again for tuning in. Congrats to all of our winners today.
Yeah, congratulations. And in terms of shout outs, I will bring out Raptimay here. So Ivana is being very modest here. Ivana and Cindy are the nurturing parents of everything social that we do. And these two have been up from like mid-morning your time all the way until like late night. So thank you. Thank you for keeping us going.
And thank you for including us. And I think for me, and I think we've chatted with Cindy a lot, but I think for me is the FOMO that keeps me up. Like, I love you guys, I love the team, but I think it's the FOMO that keeps me up. So I can't miss a stream. So guilty of the FOMO, but what can you do? And thanks so much, everyone, again, from the team and from the chat and on Twitter. You've been so awesome. Thank you. Thank you for hanging out.
This user here is our enabler in chief. That's Sarah Fatz. So thank you. She encourages us to take on this long stream pain once in a while just to have a little fun. But this was awesome because we really crisscrossed so many technologies today. So hopefully at the end of the day, you see that whether you're doing .NET or whether you're doing JavaScript or whether you're doing straight up reporting or testing, we are here to make developers more successful. Irrespective of the stack, we have something for everyone. So take a look. And we just had a huge release with R1, and it took us like a whole week to almost cover all the goodies that were in this release. And we're not going to stop. So keep doing what you're doing. Be amazing. And again, it's a new year. Well, almost like the end of January now, but I think we're all hoping for some peace, prosperity, and health. So please take care of yourself and your families. Be productive in what you do, and have fun.
Thank you. Bye.
All right, Internet. Signing off until next stream. Bye-bye.
Bye now.